She was a typical teenage girl growing up in a small town in Georgia. When she was 11, her parents got a messy divorce, and that's when things really went downhill for her. The divorce was difficult. The court records hint at substance abuse on the mother's part, and the mom was going to have her boyfriend move in with her. And that just created an environment for this young girl. She didn't want that. She decided that she wanted to go live with her dad. But the custody was drawn out. It was nasty. It was terrible. As you can imagine, this young girl was caught in the middle of it. When she was 11, she wrote a letter to the court and she wanted to live with her dad. She lived a normal high school life. She attended school on a regular basis. She went to youth group. She had lots of friends. She was described as outgoing. She loved to laugh and have fun. She really liked going on social media, especially TikTok, to talk about her life, as a lot of kids do. But beneath the surface, it was very difficult for this young lady. Nobody would have recognized that there were some things going on deeper inside her. Yes, they knew about the divorce. Yes, they knew it was difficult. I don't think they knew how difficult things were for her. Eventually, she ended up in the hospital, had to stay for mental health reasons. We don't have all those details, but we know she went in there, she was struggling, and it was deeply personal for her. Her stepfather's family later mentioned concern about her behavior. They talked about how she wasn't the person that they thought she was, and it really suggested a lot of friction at home. There were no real clear signs of anything serious or trouble with her. She was struggling, but it didn't seem like there was anything major. The custody battles continued. That was terrible. She confided in friends. She was struggling, but it doesn't appear to be abuse, doesn't appear to be drugs related. She was just going through a very difficult time. She didn't have a job. She went to school like most teenagers do. She enjoyed going to youth group at her church. That's where she got a lot of her connections. And her life seemed pretty ordinary, like most teenagers. She had rebellious sides and she disagreed and was moody occasionally, but her behavior didn't indicate anything to point to something terrible was going to happen. Her life actually seemed pretty ordinary until that tragic event in early 2025. By this time, she's 17 years old. She reported finding her mother and her stepfather shot dead in their beds. That girl was Sarah Grace Patrick. And we're going to talk about what happened on that night. There's a lot of psychological twist here. It's a very interesting story. So stick with me. But before we get to this case, I want to welcome you to this channel. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I talk about the psychology of true crime. And this case fits the bill. So let's get started with the Sarah Grace Patrick case. Sarah was living with her mother and stepfather at the time. James, her stepfather, had heart issues, and he relied on a device to monitor his heart. Her mom, Kristen, worked locally, and like other moms, she's like a taxi driver, taking her kids to and from events. And there was nothing really to indicate that there was anything wrong in this family. I want to offer a trigger warning here. I'm going to be talking about this case, and it involves Sarah killing her parents. So if this is too difficult for you, it's okay. You can come back later or skip this video altogether. Here's what we know about this case so far. Sarah allegedly enters her parents' bedroom. They were sleeping. She shot them both in the head with a gun. Her little sister heard the gunshots, woke up, and discovered her parents' bodies. This little girl saw her parents dead. Sarah then made the 911 call reporting the deaths. Initial reports treated it as a possible home invasion. Sarah reported that there was an intruder that broke into their home, and that intruder killed her parents. Police arrived at the horrific scene, and they saw Kristen and James on the bed, clearly shot with a gun. Yet there was nothing to indicate that there was a forced entry. Nothing else in the home was disturbed. The investigation started immediately. but for months it stayed open. As the months passed by, Sarah went on TikTok and she talked about the deaths of her parents, and she was grieving publicly. In one video, she talked about missing her mom and stepdad, asking for prayers and healing. She captioned one of the videos with saying, "I should probably delete this later," but left it up. Then in June 2025, Sarah had reached out to a true crime content creator on TikTok. She urged this person to investigate and do a story on the Brock case. In her message, Sarah had claimed that a random person entered their home, walked into her parents' bedroom, shot them both in the head, and left quietly, leaving her and her little sister to find their parents dead on their bed. Her posting on TikTok like that and reaching out to a content creator, it really made the public speculate and have all these different ideas of why she would have done that. It was an intrigue of why maybe she was reaching out for help. Maybe she wanted the attention. We don't know, but she went and used social media to talk about her grief. And here is where things took an unexpected turn. By July 2025, about 5 months later after the shootings, authorities issued an arrest warrant for Sarah. After Sarah went on TikTok wanting people to help and pray for her and help find this person who killed her parents, all along, it was her. Sarah was charged with 2 counts of murder and aggravated assault, later upgraded to include malice murder and weapons charges. Prosecutors said that they had mountains of evidence linking her to the crime, but we don't have a lot of specifics right now because the investigation is still ongoing. What made this so bizarre was Sarah's actions about going to social media and making her grief public and portraying herself as a victim. Friends had mentioned to the police that Sarah had told them that James's heart monitor, the alarm went off. Obviously, the alarm went off when he was killed. It would indicate that there was no heartbeat. The alarm went off. And Sarah mentioned that to her friends and didn't go check on her parents at that time. That's really odd. That detail, if it's true, raised a lot of eyebrows. Questions like, if she heard the alarm go off, why did she ignore it? Why didn't she go in and check on James? Was it part of a cover story, or was it because of something else? The bond hearing on August 19, 2025 brought even more surprises. Supporters showed up in "I Stand with Sarah" t-shirts, including her pastor, who spoke about her church involvement and how they prayed together while she was in jail. A family friend had testified that Sarah just isn't the type of person to hurt people, insisting she wasn't the person that was being portrayed. On the other side, James, Sarah's stepdad's sister, and his son begged the judge to deny bond, fearing for their safety. They felt afraid of Sarah. The judge sided with the prosecution, calling Sarah a flight risk and a potential danger for others. And so maybe James's family, maybe they knew something. They really felt like they were in danger. And then the trial was set for January of 2026. Adding to the odd elements here, there's a role of social media. Sarah's posts and outreach seemed like cries for sympathy, but some see them as calculated. Was she trying to garnish sympathy from the public? And we can't forget about Sarah's little 5-year-old sister. She found her parents, who might have even been a witness. She was affected deeply, and she'll probably remember this for the rest of her life. Now, let's shift to the psychological side here. And I also want to highlight that these are my interpretations, my speculations, not a diagnosis. In cases like this, where a teen is accused of parricide or killing their parents, we often see patterns tied to mental health and family dynamics. There's a lot here we probably don't know. We don't know the history between Sarah and her mom and stepfather. We don't know the backstory just yet. Experts point to factors like unresolved trauma that is similar to a parental divorce. Now, obviously, not every child who's gone through a divorce kills their parents, but there's an indicator here. It's a layer, it's a factor. We can't overlook that unresolved trauma. Maybe there's more to the story than we realize. Substance use and history of abuse can also play roles in this, but we have no evidence that Sarah was under the influence of any substance here. The betrayal aspect really stands out here. If true, shooting a loved ones in their sleep shows a profound breach of trust, possibly stemming from built up resentment or emotional detachment. Deception comes in these emotional social media posts. Sarah knew what she had done, and yet she goes on pretending that she didn't know, that she was grieving. She was a grieving daughter, gaining a lot of sympathy from those who watched her videos. This could link to attention seeking behaviors where someone uses tragedy for validation, perhaps indicating a low self esteem or narcissistic traits. But again, that's purely speculative. She seemed to have friends and social connections, but there's something about this that really makes me pause and think about why she decided to go on social media. Other mental health indicators here might include disassociation, where actions feel detached from reality, or impulsivity from untreated underlying conditions. She went to the hospital when she was younger for mental health issues. Maybe it's related. This case is so tragic on so many levels. We don't know the particulars just yet. Why did Sarah kill her mom and stepfather? Why did she choose a gun? Why did she choose that particular night? So many lives have been changed in an instant during this brutal act. Family of James, the family of Kristen, Sarah's little 5-year-old sister, Sarah herself, all of the family, all of the aunts, all of the uncles, the community, the church, the school. It has ripple effects, mental health indicators from one incident. And that's what happens when it's a tragic murder cases like this. There are so many unanswered questions here. It brings out to me as a therapist that we need to keep an eye out for those we love. Are they showing signs of depression or anger or other mental health indicators? If so, say something. Talk to them, offer them help, give them opportunities to go to a therapist. If you have another case that you think is interesting, that has a psychological element to the crime, let me know. I'm always looking for other cases to cover. Thank you for joining me today. And until next time, stay curious, stay safe.